So Osnat is obviously a published author and speaker and one of the top voices in product-led growth. She's been a leader at AOL, she's been a leader at WeWork, and has been through more than a few career changes, according to her bios everywhere as well, and including her latest jump into being an entrepreneur and, of course, thought leader. Now, we're here today to talk about her latest book. We're all here today to talk about her latest book, Starting from Scratch: How to Manage Change Like Your Career Depends on It, which I think is an awesome subtitle. Which is all about, I guess, your 6-step method or model, Osnat, that you've developed, and I guess full of learnings that you've developed on how to prepare yourself for change, how to deal with that change, how to be resilient, adaptable, and I think find the nuggets, find the opportunities amongst it all. Right? Did I capture that in essence?
Perfectly.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We've had a lot of people submit a couple, questions before the session, so I have all of those. But I'd love to kick off with just the basic one, kind of give you the mic so that you can intro yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your origin story. Where did you start? What were the key, story beats that got you to where you are now as a leader, but also to writing this book?
Absolutely. So first, I'm super excited to kick this off and to be the first one for doing something that all of your community was asking. So that's amazing. And thank you for the opportunity. As you mentioned, starting from scratch is not something that is new to me. It's something that I've done multiple times in my career. And writing this book, I thought that what I wanted to do is share my experience after a significant change that happened in my career. But while I was writing the book, I actually noticed that it's not the first time I've done it. It's not the first time that it happened to me, but actually I evoked change. And a lot of the times I also noticed that I actually pushed back on change. So changes that came my way, I learned to change the situation in a way that did not affect me. And the bigger I thought this topic is, I started to research like any product manager does. And actually there's a stat. So the statistics is that people change careers or change affects their career 12 times on average. So if any of you is going through change now, know that this is the number. So that means there are some that it's lower, but definitely some actually change even more. And so when we do something 12 times in our lifetime, we better have a method to go after it. We better have a way to go through it in a way that helps us and inspires us and gives us a good life. And that's why, through the research and through kind of me opening up and telling my story of change, I thought that one of the things that I really want to emphasize is that it's a 6-step. It's not something you can do overnight. If something happened or something changed your career or your life, it's not something that there's a magic, one step that we can do. It's a 6-step model. And 3 of them are actually habits that are very well, if you have them under your tool belt. And then the second thing is that really managing change is something that affects your career and you have to learn how to do it. So while I started thinking that my biggest change was WeWork, and probably many of you know the story of WeWork, the book actually starts with a different story. This is me realizing that, the change that affects our career and our life are not necessarily needing to be in the news or needing to be that dramatic as WeWork, but they are dramatic to our life and could change how we end up at the end. So I'm super excited to share stories and this experience in my book.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for introing it and excited to dig in. I know, first of all, congratulations. I saw a previous interview as well. It became a bestseller, I guess, in a matter of hours. Is that right?
Yes, 11 hours. That was amazing. And one of the things that I really credit this is the power of community. And I'm so excited that you guys are all here learning, obviously with me, but the fact that you get together in a community to support your growth and learning, this is it. And it has so many stories of success I mentioned in my book, but also, me becoming a best-selling author is thanks to my community. So I have a community of authors. I have a community of product managers like me. I have a community of people who are interested interested in career change and in change management. And the more communities that you immerse yourself into, you'll find more and more things that you can grow out of, and more good things come your way. And this is just another one.
Awesome. Well, let's get in. I mean, I think this is definitely one of the first questions we got from the community. Just right off the bat, what are the main challenges when it comes to these moments in your career, this change? And what is your advice? How would you start by facing them?
Yeah, so I'll say that I think that there are two types of changes. One is that it's an external kind of itch for change. And the other one is internal, that you want to make a change. And changes can come in a format of other people asking you to, as part of a reorg, asking, you have a way to promote yourself, you have a new peer that is joining your team, and it changes the dynamics, layoffs, acquisitions, mergers, anything that can affect our careers externally is part of that change. And there's another change that is something that is internal, and you say, okay, I'm done with this because I've been here for such a long time and there's nothing more for me to do. Or I'm done with this because, my manager does not allow me to grow and I don't want to stay here anymore. Or whatever the reason is, external or internal, it's really important to really identify, is this a real change? And is this a change I want to continue with? Because a lot of the changes I've done in my career were actually to shut down change. So a lot of the times, there was a reorg in the company and I was on the dreadful list of people to be removed from the organization, and as part of cost cutting or reorg or whatever it would be. But I managed to identify the change within the company, identify the change that I want to do and affect in my career, and bring this to life. And I've changed multiple times my role within existing companies exactly like that. So my advice is really to unpack that change. What is that change? Is it something that, happened to you and there's nothing you can do? Is it really that nothing you can do? Or is it something that, I don't want anybody to assume change is coming if they had a bad day and they still have things to do in their current job, in their current career. They came to do something that they were excited, and that's why they joined the company, but they haven't been able to do that. And then all of a sudden they say, you know what, I can't do it, so I'm going to leave. No, wait. Maybe there is a way to bring your peers or your manager or other senior leaders that can support you and push you into that change that you want to do in your career. But you're already with the same company, you already have credit with the company, you have your salary, you have all of the benefits that you've gained and the credit, so much work that you put in there, and you have relationship and hopefully a network and supportive peers and colleagues. To let that go, I don't want you to think change is something that you just need to ride and hop on, but actually hold a sec, check what that change is. What is the origin of it? Can you change it? Can you actually use that as an opportunity to push for something else that you always wanted to do? And really, first of all, do this kind of homework and cleanup so that you know how to continue and build a roadmap for that next version of you and that change.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. That sort of pause, and understanding what the change actually is. And I mean, in the title of your book is this notion of starting from scratch. So literally,
Yeah.
like resetting, starting over. I'd love to touch on that, because particularly in the day and age we're all working in, what is your advice for maybe someone that is in a position, whether it's external or internal, where they are feeling kind of the uncertainty or the fear around potentially needing to start from scratch, or maybe they're even interested in just a new thing, they're not getting from their team or company what they want, but afraid to make that leap. Maybe they don't have the expertise to go after that thing that they may think they want. What does starting from scratch mean to you, and what is your advice there?
Yeah. So originally, when I started writing the book, and a lot of the research that I've done in conversation, people were using the word starting from scratch. But then when I started to present it, a lot of people said, hold on, I'm not starting from scratch. I have experience. And it's not one or the other. It's not black and white. Starting from scratch is a mindset that you put yourself into and you say, okay, now everything's up for grabs. And then when you come into a situation where you say, whatever didn't work before, I'm going to try it again. Or whatever I wanted to do, I'm going to try it again. Or whatever that person that I was trying to work for or work with, let me try that again. And starting from scratch is that mindset and attitude that you come when you're facing change and you're saying, okay, now what's in my tool set? And when change was coming my way, many of the times what I did is an exercise that I often talk about online, which is called Am I Done? The Am I Done exercise creates a list. There's no way out of it. It's not in my head. It's not talking to someone. It's a physical list. It's a technical way to do it. And you ask yourself, why did you come to the company? There's a reason why you joined. There are motives, values, things that you wanted to accomplish, and you were excited about that. And look at that list of things that you wanted to do and have you accomplished them. And maybe a lot of the things that you dropped along the way are for various reasons, resources, reorg, other things got, I don't know, more interesting, but it was interesting to you. So unpack you. And it's very important to come into a situation where you have a really good understanding about yourself. And in my book, and I'm going to obviously share it here, but there are tools to identify yourself first. This whole thing that a lot of people, when they go through a restructure or a layoffs, they go and they run to look for a different job. I get it financially. I don't get it if you want to stick with it, because first of all, cleaning that table from what you wanted to do and you couldn't do, what you wanted to do and you are excited to do, doing that list is super critical for you to move on and for you to actually identify areas where you can pick up something to learn. I wanted to do something and I was excited, but I couldn't do it. Maybe you find out that you're missing a skill. So that is the time that you put on your learning mode, and that's step one in starting from scratch. You put on your learning mode and you start learning and you immerse yourself in learning. Today we're learning together, but there are other topics that you should, on a day-to-day basis, collect things that you're interested in, either that affect your job, your role, your workplace, things that you aspire to be, but have a running list of things that you immerse yourself in learning, because learning is something that allows you to change quickly. If you trust yourself that you can move jobs, you can move industries, you can learn new things very quickly, change is not as scary. But if you're like, oh my God, the last time I learned something new or that I needed to change was a long time ago, that is overwhelming in the face of change. So advice, learning, and then knowing yourself and your values. And a lot of the times we're not in the right mindset to do that cleanup. That's where the community comes in. People that know us in a work setting, in a career setting, and can give us advice, but also a mirror. And it's not people who love us, admire us, they can be, but these are people that a lot of the time will say, well, when I worked with you, in this situation, this is not where you were shining. Are you sure this is where you want to go next? Or how about, this is your, a skill that you're lacking. How about you go and you learn? And then you can ask them, do you have anybody to introduce me to? Do you have, a way that I can learn this? Can you give me advice? That network that you guys are building here, and hopefully on other platforms, there can't be only one community you're a part of, can be that mirror and that support system, so that once you understand you've done that cleanup, you've done that thing of what you're after in that change, they can give you resources, open doors for you, and really just also sometimes just be that shoulder you need to put your head on days that nothing really works. And some of those days will come your way.
Yeah, great. Very, very cool. Yeah, we can fit in a couple more here, I think, as well. So when that was you kind of already addressed it, this idea of almost maybe it's okay to stay where you're at, and this is how you would approach that. When is a career pivot? Like, when is it? What is your advice for someone that is entertaining the thought of really, really taking on a lot of change maybe the opportunity was given to them or they're creating it for themselves? Like, when is that large scale sort of change or career direction change? Yeah, what does someone need to be really confident in that?
Yeah. So there's actually a new term that I've started to hear in the last year or so, which is called portfolio career. I never heard of it before. As I was saying a year ago, I always called it that I have a pet project. And the pet project is something that filled me. So I had my job, but I also had something else that was my passion, my interest. Sometimes it was work related, sometimes it wasn't, but it was something else that filled me up mentally. And although it kept me busy, and sometimes it was, some weeks I could give it more time and some weeks I couldn't, it was another thing to fall onto. And fall on could be a small consulting or something that you can aside, that in case of layoff you can land into and increase volume on the other thing. But it doesn't have to be something that is financial. It can also be a hobby or a passion project or a volunteer or mentoring or something else that on bad days when the career is not working, when we have a bad day at work, we can rely on and fill us up, oh, it was a bad day at work, but I met this amazing mentee, and I was filled in by the fact that I was giving and that I was meeting other people and conveying my knowledge. It filled up, and now I'm kind of back to myself. So the basics of kind of preparing yourself for change is really to have a landing. And the landing could be financial, but it could be that passion thing that you're interested about.
Nice. I like the concept of a landing. And yeah, we have a few final minutes here. I know Daria just posted. If anybody has a burning question for Osnat, please drop it in the chat there. But yeah, Osnat, that was great too. And I think this concept of somewhere where you want to land is kind of that's a comforting one, at least. I like that. Then I will go ahead and throw one more in there then. So your framework also starts from up, I guess, getting in tune with this learning mindset, right? What is the end of the framework? What is sort of when you've gone through the first couple steps, what does it sort of like, what does success look like?
Yeah. So it's funny because it's actually a repeating question. Like, when can I just rest? But the thing is, change is always there, and it's always coming either externally. And if it's not coming externally, then you get bored and you kind of ignite it. So it's never ending. The good thing is that what I do is I have a role model, and the role model is not a specific person. It's actually me in a different time. Now, I don't know how long it will get me to be there because she's constantly changing and I'm adding more things. And as I get closer and closer to my target role model, then I have a roadmap for kind of like the next, and I'm adding, and it's the next and the next and the next. But how is extremely orienting, because you know where you're going. You know what are the hobbies that you can pick up. You know what are the learnings that you can pick up. You know that it's going to be a long road or a short road, so you need to care of yourself. You know that in order to get to a certain destination, you need specific people to help and support you. So these are future network or people that are part of the future me. And so that future me is a roadmap. And, I'm a product manager. That's how I manage products. And I'm constantly saying, we are a product, right? So what is your roadmap to yourself? And don't be shy about it. It's okay at the beginning to be, but be extremely proud and think big. And the thing is, what helps in having this future me is that it can take me a year or 2 or 3 or 5, but I know what I'm working towards. And I'm constantly putting different habits, like a learning mindset, like taking care of myself, like growing my network, because I know that this is what that person will need. And so we change, and but it's extremely inspiring, and there are different ways to get to that role model. So if something doesn't work, then you can have a plan B, and your network can help you unpack that. So I can tell you, for example, one of the things when I started writing the book, I was starting to prepare kind of how will people know about starting from scratch? Because if you haven't noticed, I'm extremely passionate about it. And I wanted more people to have those tools. And so I started asking that question, how can I get to more people to hear about this? And people were saying, well, you should look for, your people are probably career oriented, so they'll be on LinkedIn. I knew that, I know how to unpack a persona. It's not, but then someone told me, well, you need to start booking yourself on podcasts. And I said, okay. So now I had that thing in my head that I need to be on podcasts. And the more people I started meeting, I was like, hey, I'm thinking to start being on more and more podcasts. Do you have any ideas how I can get there? And then someone said, oh, I have a friend, he's a podcaster. Maybe you could be he could be your first kind of host. So I did. And then at the end of the podcast, I asked the host, can you introduce me to more podcasters? Because I assume that, this person is not, a single person in the world and doesn't know other people. So he introduced me to more people. And since the beginning of the year, I've been on 40 podcasts. So it's just like, now I have that thing. Okay, I've been on podcasts. I know how to activate it. I know if I want to shut it down or I want to bring more, I know how to now master that skill. And there are other skills that I have in that list, and I just need to build that plan. And just ticking things off that plan is extremely inspiring, but also do like on these kind of days that not everything works out as you want.
Awesome. Well then, hey, Daria threw one last question in there. I was like, because I think we're gonna go into the format with all of this behind us now. We're gonna jump into this peer coaching format, but I'd love to use this as a kind of a summary wrap-up question. And I know 20 minutes is nowhere near enough time to even touch the surface of what we're talking about. But hopefully we're able to summarize it in a way that everyone can sort of take away the main message. The high level version of your method and your model, or just the version that you want people to walk away from this with. What is that? If you want to run through the 6 points, you could run through the 6 points really quick, or just the highest level core principles, and then we're going to take it into the peer coaching.
Yeah, definitely. So the first 3 steps are habits. So the first one is learning mindset. Have a list of things you want to learn. Make time on your calendar. You always kind of forget. I forget if I don't put it on my calendar. I have this schedule, and sometimes it stops. This reoccurring meeting sometimes stops. So I forget. So make sure that you have that time. Learning mindset. Second thing, take care of yourself. Make sure that you identify when you're not at your best. Don't make any judgments on those days, but learn how to recover. Learn what brings you up. The biggest tip I can give you feel extremely well, extremely good, unpack what brought you there. Is it a person, a friend, a hobby? What is it? And recreate that scenario for yourself so you bounce back. Third one is build a community and network people you can consult with and can support you. These are 3 habits. The next ones are things that once change, you want to evoke, or happens to you, are kind of things you need to manage with. One is building a role model and unpacking the steps to have your own role model. So that's step number 5. And step number 6 is really unpacking baggage. Whatever change you're good or bad, I'm just saying bad for a second there. There's no bad change that comes your way. It's like a wind blowing you to the right direction. So unpack those and see, even in the things that you today consider bad, what are the things that you can say, well, actually, during this bad situation, these are the skills I took, and these are the people I met and can be now as part of my network to move me forward. So in like a really quick way, three habits and 3 things that you can just do starting today.
Amazing summary. Best summary ever. And an awesome way to end this. I'm sure everybody's rigorously taking notes. Starting from scratch, available, bestseller on Amazon. Osnat, thank you so much for being here. I know you're super busy and you're going to jump now, but really thankful. And Devi, I'll make sure your question goes to Osnat behind the scenes, and we'll get you an answer. I know Devi threw a question in there at the end. Osnat, thank you so much. Huge pleasure.